Yeah, you want a little cameo?
Yeah.
Getting? We're live. Hi, Kayla. Okay.
It's so
dark. I know, it's really dark, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because there's so much backlight. Usually it's not that bad. But anyway, so today we're starting at the very, very beginning. I know for a lot of you this is review, but there might be some little pieces along the way, even if this is something you're fairly comfortable with, that will help you to make some things click. Maybe it'll help you sight read better as you understand like the distance between lines and spaces, that sort of thing. Or maybe you're really comfortable in treble clef, but not so much bass clef. So we're going to talk a little bit about bass clef this week, more next week. Maybe you don't even know what I mean when I say clef. That's okay. We're going to talk about that too. So starting at just some of those building blocks, make sure we're on the same page. Remember, when we get to the work, you can kind of decide what sort of pace you want to do. If you want to do stuff that's a little bit faster paced or like moving ahead a little bit, then you can take the advanced one. If you want to just get some practice at the basics, then take that one too, okay? So we're talking about reading notes on the staff, specifically in treble clef today, okay? So we're talking about the way music is organized, right? Just some very, very basics. So when you look at music on the page, we talk about the staff all the time, right? It's referring to those 5 lines and 4 spaces. That's how we know a note is changing. The pitch is changing, right? If it goes up the staff, the note's getting higher. If it goes down the staff, the note's getting lower. Each line and each space is a different pitch, okay? Each line, each space is a different pitch. We just talked about higher and lower. And you can write notes outside of the staff, right? So we're going to talk more about that down the road, but I have more than those options. I can write below that or above that using what are called ledger lines. It just keeps going line space, line space, line space, line space forever and ever and ever for as long as we would need it to go, okay? So that's our staff. That's what we're talking about when we talk about staff. Again, seems pretty basic, but it's really important to be able to distinguish if a note is in a space, there's no line going through it, right? Or if the note is on a line. So the line goes directly through it if it's on a line. Because sometimes when I would say, is this a line note or a space note? People would say, that's a line note. And I would ask why. And they'd say, well, it's sitting on a line, right? So just making sure we're using like the right words for it. This is what we mean by if it's on a line. The line goes directly through it. Well, but it's just that basic understanding, right? Like I'm saying the exact same thing both ways. It's sitting on a line. But if you think that's what sitting on a line is, we're going to not be speaking the same language. So we're just making sure we're all on the same page. Okay?
Like assignments for music.
So when we talk about, again, how music is structured, each pitch is given a letter name, right? And I think that might be coming up here. But I'll talk about the scales and sort of the letter names in a second. But these 2 symbols are ones we commonly see in choral music or piano music to show us which like group of notes we're talking about, okay? So treble clef, when it's on the staff, is representing a certain group of notes, which is a different group than bass clef. Yes, Eve.
Is there more than those 2?
Yes, there are. There are. You won't see them very commonly, especially in like contemporary choral music. If you were to play viola uses alto clef a lot. So there's also an alto and tenor clef. There's a bunch of other ones, but those 4 are probably the most common. These 2 are by far the most common for everybody, okay? So if I say treble or bass, think about your radio, right, in your car. If you turn the treble all the way up, what happens to the sound?
It sounds really high.
The higher part comes out. It gets kind of that tinny sound because you don't hear the low as much. So treble is the upper part, bass is the lower part. So treble is representing a higher set of notes than bass clef is representing, okay? So when we're talking about treble clef, here's our range of notes that we're talking about. So here's the C that's right there, okay? That's the note that's right there. So it's kind of representing that set of notes. Now, if we use ledger lines, it can go a little further each direction, right? We can stretch it from there. When we get to bass clef next week, bass clef kind of starts at that middle C and goes down. So it's kind of the set of notes that butts up next to it. They're right next to one another, okay? But it's the lower set of notes. So you can see we've got these letters here, right? I was talking about each pitch has a letter name. And so the musical alphabet is the alphabet for dummies, right? It's just 7 letters of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We don't have to remember all 26. We only have to know 7, okay? And they repeat over and over and over again. So once you get to, here's where's an A, B, C, D, E, F. Here's a G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and it would just repeat over and over and over again, okay? So that's our alphabet. You can see pretty much used for sopranos and altos, sometimes tenor. You'll see treble clef, especially if it's open score, okay? So shortcuts for finding those. If I go back for a second here, I go back for just a second. When you read notes a lot and you get really comfortable with this, you just know, oh, second space is an A. Fourth line is a D. That's something that comes pretty automatic after a while. If this is not something that's automatic for you, something that's pretty helpful are these shortcuts. Oops, sorry. Okay? If you know other shortcuts, please don't talk, guys. I know that some of you know this already. I get it. Okay? If you know other shortcuts, feel free to use them, right? Some people know Elvis's guitar broke down Friday. Whatever that is, there's a bunch of different ones. If you know a different shortcut, great, use that. I just use these ones, and when we get to bass clef, it'll make more sense why I picked these two. Okay? So every good boy does fine. Face. You're always going to start from the bottom line of the staff if you're using these shortcuts and work your way up. Okay? So for example, my every good boy does fine, right? If I'm trying to figure out what that note is, I'm starting down here. I go every good boy does. So that's my shortcut for lines. If I'm trying to figure out spaces, I'm trying to figure out this one, I would go F, A, C. Okay? So you start from the bottom line or space, use the appropriate shortcut. It gets you there pretty quickly. Eventually, like I said, you do this enough, it becomes automatic. But it's okay if that's not automatic for you. It takes a while to get to that point. Okay? So use those two shortcuts to help you. Let's try a few. Okay? Whoa, here's a piece of music, right? And there's notes all over the place. Right now, we're just trying to figure out what those pitches are. Okay? I'm going to check time, make sure. Okay. We got 5 minutes. All right. So, for example, let's take the first note of the piece. First of all, is it a line or a space? Line. Okay, there's a line going through it. It's a line. So which shortcut do I need to use? Every good boy does fine. I'm going to start at the bottom. E, G. Right? Every good. Okay, so that's a G. All right, let's do a space. How about this one right here? Okay. So it's a space because there's no line going through it. So I need to use which shortcut?
It rhymes with face.
Face. Okay. So F, A. All right. Let's do one more. Let's try this one here. Okay, line or space?
Which one?
That one. That's a line. Okay, middle line. Shortcut.
Every good boy.
Every good boy does fine. Every good boy. That's a B. So the keys are start from the bottom, identify if it's a line or a space, and then use that shortcut. Okay? If you ever forget a shortcut, Rogan. So I have to ask you again, I take it. Okay? If you forget one of them, like let's say you're doing a quiz on this a couple weeks down the road, you're like, I remember face, but I can't remember what the line shortcut is. How can you figure it out? Use the alphabet. Yes. So I know that's F-A-C-E. They go in order. So if this is F, the next letter is G. That's an A. The next letter is B. C comes next, then D, then E, then F. So if you forget one, just be aware that that repeats over and over again in alphabetical order, right? They just keep going. All right. So that's one thing you'll need to know how to do. The other thing you'll need to know how to do is how to draw notes on the staff if I give you the letter. All right. So if we need an A in treble clef, CJ, you got it? Okay. Can you explain how you're doing that at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So an A, I instantly think spaces because F-A-C-E.
Yep.
So F and then A.
Face rhymes with space.
Yeah.
Just imagine it's
Let's try it
imaginary.
again. No, it's not quite so. Okay, that's
I was still right though.
No, you are right. I don't know. I gotta see why my board's not working. That's fun.
It needs to be put in
Try this.
writing.
Try this again. Really good internet lesson. Gonna go up today. It's very solid. Okay. No, still red light. I don't know. It's not gonna work. Okay.
Red light, green light.
So-
They don't like us. Red light, green light.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that.
Always drop 4
Okay.
lines on the side.
That's all right. Do you have Sarah? Same thing. Okay. Questions about how to do that? I wanted to do a few more examples, but that's the idea. So you identify whether it's a line or a space, which shortcut it is, and then use that shortcut to figure out where it is in the stack. What if it's something like E? There's 2 different ones. You can do either. For this kind of thing, you can pick either one. So E is in face, right? FACE. It's also in every good boy does fine. So you can pick either one if there's 2 options. Okay? Questions about that? All right, solid. So here's what you're going to do. Now it's not going to work at all.
It just does not.
Very
There's
nice.
a red light on
Okay.
the side of it.
Yep, I know. It's awesome. Okay, so here are your options. Okay? You can do some practice worksheets to work on this, demonstrate that you know how to do it, because it's something that will help you. Just, again, understanding that language. If I say, okay, tenors, start on the A in measure 3, or instead of the A, we keep going up to a B instead, so we got to make sure that, so we have to know what that means when I say those things, right? Or when we say those things. So that's one option. Basic starts right from where we did, okay? Lines and spaces, clefs, and then a little bit of treble clef note reading. The advanced one goes right to note reading, has some ledger lines, and then has you draw some notes in a little composition. If you'd rather do a composition this semester in place of these weekly sheets, right? If that's something that you're interested in and you want to take that on, what you're going to do instead is tell me what you want to compose and how that's going to meet all these things. These are the kind of the things we're going to talk about this semester. So your composition has to demonstrate all of those things. Make sense? Okay, so I have for you either the basic one, that one says lesson 1, the staff, or the advanced one actually says advanced on it, okay? You can pick either one or do the composition thing. That's due next Tuesday. I will also put all the stuff in Google Classroom. All right, grab one of these on your way out, and we'll see you later.
Let me be your pinterest.
Okay, and that's an advanced one. That's what you want.